Hi, welcome to Roots Nutrition. Today we're going to talk about the 5 factors of aging and how they shorten your lifespan. I'm Dr. Romeo Brooks, and this is really important subject. You know, that there's a statistic that says there's 50 people that are 55 years old, more people that are 55 years old in the United States than any other time in history. And that's because of the baby boomers. Anyone that was born between 1946 and 64, you know how old you are. But more importantly, there's another statistic that says that there are 10,000 people that turn 65 years old every month in the United States. Every month. So you know what that means? If 10,000 people turn 65 years old every month in the United States, that means that there are 10,000 people that are 64 and 63 and 62 and 61 and 60 years old and so on and so forth. So today, that's why this is a really important topic. We're going to talk about how and why there's 5 factors of aging and how they shorten your lifespan. So anyway, the first factor and the first factor in this is that you lose muscular strength. You lose muscular strength, you increase body fat, your lungs actually shrink. You can lose 20% of your lung capacity by the time you're 40 years old, but you can also lose 40% of your lung capacity by the time you're 70 years old. Your bones thin out. That's number 4. You fight osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. And then you lose your cardiac output, which that's specifically the reserve capacity in your heart. So we're going to take these one at a time. Well, first you lose muscular strength. That may not seem important, but when you lose muscular strength, it's not just the skeletal muscles that you're losing. You lose the muscles in and around the blood vessels, the nerves, the cells. Everything has to have conductivity. You need blood flow, lymph flow, and nerve flow. So when your muscles atrophy, it's not just your skeletal muscles that are atrophying, it's the muscles in the blood vessels, in your organs and tissues. They all have to work to do their jobs. So think about it. If you're weak, when I was on the fire department, I was on the LA City Fire Department for 32 years. I've been retired for 6 years now, just last month. But when I was on the fire department, we would get a lot of older people that will fall. And you probably heard it on TV. You've heard commercials where they say, I've fallen and I can't get up. And the reason for that is because they're weak in their muscular strength. So they'll fall over and they'll usually break a femur, and we'll have to try to splint that and take them to the hospital. But this happens over and over again. They'll fall and they'll bust an eye or break their nose. And even if they're walking down the street and they seem to walking down the street and they seem to have some strength, they'll be walking down the street and it'll be a little lip in the sidewalk or something that they step on, and they'll kick it. And because they don't have enough strength, they can't get their legs back under them, and so they'll fall and do a face plant. And they'll get a hematoma, like I said, on their eye, they'll break their nose, they can get a cheekbone, a chin, whatever else it is. You can't have that. That's not a good thing. You gotta build your muscular strength. Secondly, you're gonna increase body fat. That may not be funny, but we increase body fat because we just become sedentary. And when you increase body fat, it's not just the body fat in the skeletal muscles or around the skeletal muscles, it's body fat in the organs. I'm sure you've all heard of fatty liver, or fatty spleen, or fatty organ. That waste builds up over and over again. And so the fat is built by the body or produced by the body so it can store the waste. But if you keep yourself cleaned out, that wouldn't happen. Thirdly, your lungs shrink. That's absolutely true. Your lungs shrink. The reason why your lungs shrink is because you're not increasing your tidal volume. You're not increasing your lung capacity. When you were a kid, you may have played tag. You're it, and you run, and you get out of breath, and that's always increasing your lung capacity or your tidal volume. But when you go to the gym, and you get on the elliptical, and you just do like this for an hour, or you walk around the park, or you walk through the neighborhood, you're still not getting that exchange. You're not increasing your lung capacity. That's the thing that's making the difference. So even though you may go to the gym every day, 3 times a week, or whatever it may be, if you're not increasing your oxygen debt, if you're not doing that, that's going to make all the difference in the world. Your lungs are going to shrink no matter what happens. So listen to me. We're going to hit these even more in detail. So, fourthly, your bones thin out. You fight osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. In other words, you start to get holes in your bones because the thing is, you're not using your bones. You're not strengthening your bones because of what you're doing. Like I said, walking around the park or through the neighborhood or getting on an elliptical or something like that, that's not going to strengthen your bones at all. Not at all. You got to have something that's weight bearing. And then fifthly, I was talking about your cardiac output. The number one killer in the United States is heart attack. And there's a reason for it. Most people don't have enough cardiac output to meet that reserve. When I say your reserve capacity, imagine if you're lying down at a picnic, you're lying on a blanket, and you doze off, and you happen to wake up, and you turn around, and you see 4 200-pound Rottweilers coming after you. And they're coming after you viciously. So you have to jump up, run as fast as you can to try to get away from them. You literally have to go from 0 to 60 to run and get away. But the thing is, you're taking your cardiac output from 0 to 60, and this is your anaerobic threshold. To take your heart from 0 to 60, most people don't have the capacity to take it, so you can literally have a heart attack. You get stressed at night. What I found out over the years on the fire department is most people have a heart attack on Monday morning. Monday morning before they go to work. Now, most people don't like their jobs. I'm sure that's probably what it is. Or they're stressed because of their job. Or they're working a job that doesn't pay them enough. They're working on a job that they don't like. They're doing something that's actually discouraging. So this stress builds up over time, and you don't have the reserve capacity in your heart to deal with that. And that's why these things are so dramatic. Now, we go back over in detail, and that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully I'll get some questions that we can answer to specifically address why these factors shorten your lifespan. So again, we're going to go back to strengthening your muscles. You lose muscular strength. If you don't strengthen your muscles, if you don't have weight-bearing exercises or anything like that, you're going to lose that muscular strength. Your muscles will literally atrophy. And I know everyone on the planet has heard either use it or lose it. But it's true. In this case, if you don't, think of it like this. If you put a cast on your arm and say nothing's wrong with your arm, everything is fine, you have muscular strength, you can do whatever you need to do. But if you could put a cast on your arm for just 7 days, take the cast off, you'll be down to 30% of your strength. You would have lost 70% of your strength by immobilizing your arm for just 7 days. Isn't that amazing? So imagine when you're immobilized, you don't work out, you sit there, you become a couch potato. You know, you watch TV, you do this, you do that. You know, you sit around at a desk at work. You get back in your car, you drive back home, and you sit around. You know, everywhere you go, you sit, you get on the car, you get on the bus, you get on the train, you get on the subway. You're sitting, you get to where you're going, and you sit. You leave where you're going, and you sit. You go to the movies, and you sit. You go to church, and you sit. That takes a toll. It's called the law of accumulative effect. When you don't use your muscles not just atrophy and get skinny, but they get weak. And now you can't do it. And remember what I said, it's not just your skeletal muscles, it's all part of your visceral organs and your blood vessels. Everything together like that. It's just gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Now, think about that. Every muscle in the body is used for doing things, to move, to climb, to walk, to go to sleep, to bend down, to get back up. We take it for granted. One of the specific exercises I tell older people to do, because it's really simple and you can do it at home, is what I call get up and get down. Literally get up and get down. So you literally stand right where you are. It may seem funny, and you just squat down and you lie down on your back. That's all you do. You lie down flat on your back. But then you get back up. So you got to use your core muscles. You get back up. You stand back up. So you're using your legs and arms. And now you get back down again. But this time you lie on your stomach. You lay all the way down. But then you got to use your arms, push-ups, to push yourself back up. Stand up. And you do it all over again. Lie down on your back, stand up, lie down on your stomach. Flat, stand up, lie down on your back, lie down on your stomach. If you do that off and on for just 20 seconds, and stop and rest and catch your breath, and then do it again. You could probably do, maybe it's easy for you to do 30 seconds on and 30 seconds off. So just get up and get down. Get up and get down. Lie down on your back, stand up, lie down on your stomach. Stand up, lie down on your back, and do that for maybe 30 seconds, and then maybe rest for 30 seconds. And then do it again. And if you just do that 10 times, 30 seconds, get up and get down, 30 seconds, rest. If you do that 10 times, that's just 10 minutes. 10 minutes is magical. But if you do that daily, I promise you, in about 2 weeks' time, you'll be amazed how much strength you have in your skeletal muscles. Now, of course, there's other things that you can do, but this is what you can do anywhere you are on the planet. in a hotel room, on vacation, wherever you might go. That's what makes the difference with that. And of course, those of you that are even more active, you can do those things. But these are simple tips that can change your capacity in a couple of weeks. Now, secondly, decreasing body fat. This is what we're going to do. How do you decrease body fat? Well, it's not just not eating fat, because if you eat raw plant fats, those are good for you, like avocados, nut seeds, coconuts, olive oil, coconut oil. Those are good fats, and actually they help to burn and get rid of the animal fats. You know what clogs up the pipe system? The arteries, the arterioles, the veins, venules, and capillaries. What clogs up your cells is the cooked animal fat. That's right, the fried animal fat, the cooked animal fat, that's what coagulates. That's what causes blood sludge. That's what causes blood clots, if you will. Fried foods and just processed foods, refined foods. That's the thing that clogs you up. So to increase or decrease body fat, yes, you want to eat less animal fat and less byproducts from animals. But the thing is, any kind of exercise is going to happen there. Think of it like this. Think of a steak. Think of the fat outside of the steak. You have to mobilize that fat. That fat has to be moved from the outside to the inside of the muscle, because that's where it's burned. Fat is only burned in what's called the mitochondria of the muscle cells. That's just a big word for the furnace in the muscle cells. When you mobilize that fat by exercising, moving your body, and actually doing things more vigorously with a little more intensity. Say, for example, after you do the get up and get down for a couple of weeks, you'll see that it's easier, so you'll be able to do it faster in that 30 seconds. And that speeds up your heart rate and it speeds up your circulation across the board. But when you do that, you're going to actually move that fat from the outside in the muscle and bring it into the fat. Bring it into the muscle or the mitochondria or the muscle cells. So think of it like this. There's three kinds of fat. There's depot fat, fat that sits on you, like around your belly, sometimes women behind their arms, around their hips and thighs. That's like a train depot. The fat just sits there. There's depot fat, but then there's also subcutaneous fat. And that's just the fat beneath the skin. That's like that fat that you see in the steak, the fat beneath the skin. But then there's essential fat. We have to have essential fat. We need fat for warmth and to cushion the organs, so that's necessary. But that depot fat and the subcutaneous fat, a lot of people in our culture, they kind of say that they're thick. Some of the women in our culture say, well, I'm just thick, I'm big boned. And no, if you get measured on our body fat analyzer, we can tell you that it's not thick. You're probably registered as overfat or even obese. And if you language it as being thick, you're deceiving yourself because you're actually overfat or obese. And it needs to be addressed. And that's why we're doing this today. So the thing is, remember, you want to mobilize that fat. And immediately, as you get more live fruits and vegetables in, and their juices, as soon as you start to do that, you start to alkalize the body, and the body will let go of the fat. A lot of people do all kinds of different things to try to lose the fat on their body, and it's really simple. Don't give your body an excuse to store fat. Fat is your body taking in fuel, taking in energy. And think about it. A calorie is the heat, the unit of heat that it takes 1 liter of water to raise 1 liter of water 1 degree. So if you stop taking in all of those calories, especially non-essential calories, then the fat will just come off automatically. That's what makes the difference. Now, that brings us to your lung capacity. Your lungs shrinking. Now that sounds funny that your lungs shrink. Even if you're going about and you're living your day and you're doing whatever you need to do, and you're talking about your lungs shrinking, yeah, if you don't deliberately stretch your lungs automatically shrink. Automatically. Think, remember putting the cast on the arm? You lose 70% of your muscle strength in just a week. Well, it's the same thing with the lungs. If you don't use your lungs, they shrink. Remember what I said? You can lose 20% of your lung capacity by the time you're 40 years old. 20%, that's a lot. And then 40% by the time you're 70 years old. Think about this. Here's an extreme case. When you get into the hospital, if you lie down in the bed and you're in the hospital for several weeks or whatever, because you were immobilized, your lung capacity shrinks, particularly because you're immobilized. So what happens is your lungs are shrinking, and this is addressed to you so you can get it, but your lungs are shrinking because you become immobilized. So you sit back there, you lie in the bed, and people think the hospital is just bad in and of itself. No, because the thing is, most people are bedridden in the hospital. They stay in bed longer than I think they should. But when you get in the bed, your body adapts to what you demand of it, or not demand of it, but specifically to what you demand or not demand of it. So when you lie in bed and you don't move, you're immobilized, your lungs shrink even faster than when you're just walking around and doing your job, going back and forth to work or doing whatever it is. So if you lie in bed and you sit around, like I was saying, sitting on the couch watching TV, sitting at work, sitting on your way to work, from work, sitting at the theater, sitting at dinner, sitting at lunch, sitting at breakfast, we sit more than the body can actually handle. And so the body adapts to that sitting. So the lungs shrink in that capacity because there's no demand that's created. Now think of just the opposite. Kids run and sprint around and play tag and they get out of breath. As a matter of fact, someone asked me a few weeks ago, they said, isn't getting out of breath bad for your health? And I'm thinking like, how did our culture even get to this? How did we get to the point where we think that getting out of breath is bad for you? Because when we were kids, we never thought that. That would never cross your mind. But now we go and run around, and, or don't run around because we think getting out of breath is bad. This is what I tell people. This is your anaerobic threshold. This is where you get out of breath. Most people work well within their aerobic capacity way down here. And that's why they do it for an hour, because it's so easy. But my thing is, come up to that anaerobic threshold, even if it's 20 to 30 seconds. Just touch it. You don't have to get totally out of breath. But if you touch it and come back down and catch your breath, and then touch it and come back down and catch your breath, every time you touch an anaerobic threshold, you'll knock it up higher and higher. Well, guess what? To you, you'll just be barely getting out of breath. But every time you barely get out of breath, you knock up your anaerobic threshold higher and higher. Well, guess what happens to your aerobic capacity? It automatically comes up. So now you can do more even for a longer period of time. This is what people don't understand about the lungs. Get this. Your lungs is the only digestive system that you have for bulk air. Your lungs, let me say that again. Your lungs is the only digestive system for bulk air. The air that we breathe in, think about this. It's only 21% oxygen. It's 79% nitrogen. So when you breathe this bulk air in, you're really not breathing it in. You're actually creating a vacuum in the lungs, and atmospheric pressure pushes the air into your lungs. So if you can't create the vacuum, you can't even get the air in. But let's say your lungs are this big. Now just imagine, only 21% of this much volume of air, only 21% is oxygen. So now you have to extract that 21% through your lungs to get into the blood and then circulate and try to give all the cells the oxygen that they need. Just imagine. So now, everyone knows how if you have a couple of bags of groceries and you climb up like 5 flights of stairs, you're totally out of breath. Well, you may not even need the bags of groceries. Just climb up 5 flights of stairs and you'll get out of breath. That's not a good thing. That's only because you haven't taxed yourself a little every day, just a little every day. That's why even walking up steps, walk up a step and back down, doing like they call step aerobics or whatever, or even squats or to get up and get down. Any kind of exercises that taxes your respiratory system is going to be the best thing in the world. My thing is, simple thing I'll talk about exactly what you can do, but get out of breath. That's the bottom line. Get out of breath. I don't care if you run over there and run back, jog over there, jog back, jog over there, and you get out of breath in 30 seconds or whatever it is, and catch your breath, and then do it again, and catch your breath, and do it again. You want to deliberately create an oxygen debt. And you should do it on a daily basis, even if it's just for a few minutes. Deliberately create an oxygen debt, because that way you keep increasing. To you, it's going to feel like, I'm just barely getting out of breath. But 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, when you're barely getting out of breath, you've increased your lung capacity tremendously. And that's what makes the difference. Think about it like this. Your lung capacity literally determines your longevity. Because you can go without food for a while, you can go without water for a shorter period of time, but you can only go without oxygen for 4 to 6 minutes. 4 to 6 minutes and you're dead. I can tell you, 32 years on the fire department, how much CPR I've done. I've done CPR with ventilator. As a matter of fact, now, because they want to get more people to do CPR on someone that might have a cardiac arrest or stop breathing, matter of fact, they don't even worry about the compressions anymore. Or actually, they don't worry about the mouth-to-mouth anymore. They just want you to move the blood. Just do the compressions. Even if you don't breathe into them, just do the compressions. Because what that'll do is it'll circulate the residual oxygen that's already in the blood. But think about it. If you're depending on that residual oxygen that's in the blood, and you had a small lung capacity, you're not going to have much oxygen in your blood. The bigger your lungs are, the more you can take in. And that's why people with big lungs and increase their lung capacity, you can just run and run, you can sprint, you can jog, you can do whatever you need to do. So that's why lung capacity is so important. The thing is, we all have the capacity to increase our lung capacity. Now, osteoporosis. You see people getting older. It may seem funny, but people get shorter as they get older, and that's because of osteoporosis. They're eating acidic foods that actually leach the calcium out of their bones, and they literally get pinholes in the bones. I remember when I was working in Eagle Rock, that's north of downtown LA, I remember seeing the guy just walking around like this the whole time. And the guy used to stand up straight. And you think like, well, how did he get there? He didn't just go one day, he's standing up straight and tall, and the next day he's over. And women, they always buy, as they get older, they'll buy, CalMag, calcium and magnesium. They're trying to make sure they don't get osteoporosis, and they're fighting osteoporosis. Look, by and large, you're not missing calcium. The thing is, you're losing calcium. Calcium is being leached out of your bones. It's literally like being in a boat. If we're in a boat, and there's a hole in the boat, and now you're going to help me bucket the water out as the water is coming in. So I'll bucket the water out, and I'll get tired and hand you the bucket. Now you bucket the water out, and you get tired, you hand it back, and I bucket the water out. Well, eventually, no matter what, we're going to both get too tired, and we'll sink and drown. The root of the problem is the hole in the boat. Why don't we take the bucket and plug the hole? And I only say that in light of most people are losing calcium. It's being leached out, and they're going over here to get calcium and magnesium to take it in, but they're losing the calcium every day. So they're buying more supplements, and they get a better supplement, and they get oyster shells, and they pulverize oyster shells. This is what the companies do. They pulverize oyster shells and tell you to take that in as calcium. You can't assimilate oyster shells. I don't care how pulverized they are. You can't. It's just like trying to go, you need iron. Say you're iron deficient, so you go pick up a piece of iron, and you crunch on it and grind it up and try to assimilate iron. It's not going to happen. You can't do that. You have to take it in a natural state. So think about this. The plant makes fuels through photosynthesis. We need that sun energy. We need that sunlight. Vitamin D will even help strengthen the bones. But we're always covered up. We need to get our naked skin in the sun for just a few minutes. Early in the day, 10 minutes, or 10 minutes later in the day, and just that, working in the sun, that'll strengthen your bones. But if you get green plants, greens are dense in minerals. As a matter of fact, they're the #1 source of minerals per calorie than anything else you can consume. So you take in those greens, that's what you're going to be able to assimilate because you have to get it into your cells. But like I was saying, if this calcium is being leached out, you have to get to the root of the problem. You have to plug up that hole where you're losing calcium, then you won't have to take in so much. Because if you're doing that, you're taking it in, if you're losing it twice as fast as you're taking it in, you're still going to have osteoporosis, you're still going to be bowled over, you still may fall. I don't know how many broken femurs I've gone on. Broken arms of older people, broken arms, broken nose, broken faces, hips, thighs, all of that stuff. Because they don't have the bone strength. You can densify your bones simply. I tell people, strengthen your bones by doing exercises slow. It may sound funny, but I tell you to go down, take 10 seconds to squat down right where you are. You can put a chair behind you just in case you might think you'll fall, and then stand back up. And you go down 10 seconds slow. Take it slow. That's the whole thing, particularly because when you're older, you don't want to do anything fast. That'll just really hurt the joints when you do things fast. It hurt the cartilage, the connective tissue, the tendons. But if you go slow and deliberate, it literally increases muscular force and bone force like nothing else. That's what you want to do. So slow everything down. You can have a supplement, but let it be a whole food supplement. Like we have here at Roots Nutrition. The Power Green, even the Power Food, to give you something that's going to benefit the whole body, not just like taking calcium in by itself. Because the nature is not like that. It's always grouped with so many other things. Let me say this. To try to take in CalMag or some synthetic vitamin or mineral, some man-made thing, nothing comes like that in nature. There's so many vitamins and minerals in nature that we haven't discovered and will never discover. So to try to isolate it and take it in by itself, by and large, you'll never assimilate it anyway. People like to think it does, but how many people take CalMag and still have osteoporosis in our culture? What does that tell you? How is that working? And that's what I'm talking about. So get the live foods in that's not just going to benefit your bones, but your muscles, tendons, ligaments, connective tissue, your blood vessels, your brain, every cell in the body. That's what you want. Now, fifthly, back to this cardiac output. A heart attack is the #1 killer in the country, #1 killer in the United States. #1. And if something is #1 killer, you need to address it. You got to get to the root of the problem. Yeah, your heart pumps the blood all through the system. And I'm telling you, it's a capacity. Everything has a capacity. Think of your stomach having a capacity. If we're on a cruise ship, we need as many meals as we want, right? We can make 4 entrees if we can eat it. But the thing is, no matter how much we eat, once you get full, you reach your capacity. Now, if you eat some more, you're going to throw up or bust a gut because you've gone beyond your tolerance level. Well, your heart has a tolerance level. And the thing is, when you were a kid and you ran around and did things for fun, you increase your capacity and your tolerance level. But now as you get older and you become sedentary, when you become sedentary, that capacity is lost. And so as you lose that capacity over the years, and now your body's stressed because of work, because of traffic, because of family matters, because of social things, whatever it might be, financial things, when you're stressed in the heart, your heart is working. See, we think of the heart just working when we exercise and do things like that. No, a thought goes into the body at the speed of light. A thought will go into the body faster than any vitamin, mineral, herb, or anything that you can consume. That thought, before you even realize that the chemical and electrical energy of that thought is already coursing through your veins. And so stress, which I call fear, because that's what it comes down to, it works on the heart. It slows down the heart. Remember, a thought goes into the body, so your cells, particularly now in this instance, your heart cells are eavesdropping on your internal dialogue and your external speech. Your heart is listening to what you're thinking and saying. And if what you're thinking is sad, depressed, anxious producing, you're going to affect your heart. You're going to stress your heart. And the thing is, it's prolonged. And the reason why I call it fear, because that's the way it registers physiologically. Used to, back in the day, we see something we get frightened. We can either run from it or fight it. But then after we engage, the thing is over. So now we can relax and catch our breath, and we got away from the dog, or we got away from the fight that we were involved in. We got away from the stressful situation. So now we can relax and recuperate and recover ourselves. But stress, it doesn't let go. When you have stress, it's like being afraid, and now 20 minutes later you're still afraid, and the next day you're still afraid, and the next week you're still afraid, and the next month and the next year you're still afraid. So imagine being afraid over and over and over again. That's the one thing on the fire department. We'd have to get up at any hour of the night. 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. That's stressful. And that's why firefighters have their own type of heart disease, because the stress is over and over and over again. But at least we expect it, we go to sleep, and then we try to adapt to it by exercising to increase the capacity of our hearts. Think of it like this. When I talk about reserve capacity, think if you're on the freeway, and you're driving on the freeway, and you're a little 4-cylinder car. If a big rig comes over in front of you, and you try to step on the gas to get out of the way, you may not have enough power to exert to get out of the way, so you get crunched. Now, if you're in a vet, or you're in a high-performance car, and the big rig comes over on you, you can speed up and get out of the way. Well, see, that's what it is in the reserve capacity. The reserve capacity is really stressed when you're just relaxed and going easy, and now you have to react. You're walking down the street with your family, and all of a sudden some madman comes after you, some dog comes after you, something is stressful, now you got to run and get away, and the heart can't take it. That's what I'm talking about. That's the reserve capacity in the heart, and that's what on the fire department we had to build up, because we would get stressed all the time. Some of you may not know, but even the LA riots, we saw things on TV, and I can tell you, it was nothing like it was being behind the scenes. During the LA riots, we got 3 fires every 60 seconds. Every 60 seconds. So it was like we were putting out fires and going. We didn't even put them all the way out. We just knocked the fire down, loaded up the hose, went to the next fire, knocked it down, went to the next fire. And we did that all night long, all day until 3 o'clock in the morning, where we finally got a break and got something to eat. And then kept going again. We were literally up for 3 days in a row, 72 hours. That's why I tell people I'm good for 72 hours. After that, I got to crash. I got to recover. But that's what it comes down. So, do you have any questions at all? This is about the 5 factors of aging and how it shortens your lifespan. Just to recuperate, since we're at the end, the first one was you lose muscular strength. Secondly, you increase body fat. Your lungs shrink. You can lose 20% of your lung capacity by the time you're 40 years old. Your bones thin out. You fight osteoporosis and osteoarthritis because you're not really doing anything weight bearing to build that back up, intensify your bones. And then you lose your cardiac output. These things that shorten your lifespan if they're not working. And so you have to do something on a daily basis. And my contention is do something for just 10 minutes a day. I was on Twitter the other day and the question was asked about how can I stay committed to exercise? And I said exercising briefly and consistently will build a habit of routine. And 10 minutes a day is magical. It really is, because we always have that. If we don't have 10 minutes a day for our life and health, then we're fooling around. We're not kidding. So my thing is, I was saying earlier, for older people, you can do get up and get down. Stand up, lie down on your back, stand back up, lie down flat on your stomach. Stand up, lie down on your back, stand up, lie down flat on your stomach. Just doing that exercises every single cell in the body. But quickly, whatever you do, we can strengthen the bones and tendons and ligaments, everything. Whatever you do slowly. Doing push-ups, don't just pump it up, pump it up, pump it up. Just lower yourself slowly. Touch the ground and push up. Lower yourself slowly. If you're squatting, lower yourself slowly and stand back up. Lower down slowly. If you're pulling something, pull away, pull a band, and then lower it slowly. That's how the body does if you think about it. The body pushes, you squat, and you pull. There's no other real motions that the body do. When you do that, you'll exercise every single cell in the body. Anyway, if you have any questions, send your questions to richnutrition.com, or you can get us on Twitter, or you can get us on Facebook. But send your questions to us and Instagram as well. But the whole reason for this is that we can all get to the root of our problem. So look at us on richnutrition.com, or you can call us 888-ROOTSNU, Roots Nutrition, 888-ROOTS-NU. All right, thanks a lot. This is Dr. Romeo Brooks.